Slade has fought a ton of people, but it's time for him to bring the family home and discover what's been going on with Lawman and his daughter. At the end of our last video, Slade began investigating the disappearance of his daughter Rose. After following several false leads, Slade found himself in Montana, where the latest lead took him. However, as he arrived, still weak from snakebite sting, Victor Reyes betrayed him, and now he sits at the feet of the mysterious man known as Lawman, who Rose has been helping. Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. And then I read them dramatically back to you, occasionally in a weird voice. All alterations to the panel text and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. As Slade kneels before Lawman, he tells him, this is where Deathstroke will die. But as Lawman talks, Slade begins to recognize his voice. It's the voice of Wardell Chambers, an old war buddy 5 years prior. Wardell shouts at him, "It's Lawman now. It's been a long 5 years since you left me to die on the battlefield." Slade thinks back and remembers Wardell being shot, and he says that he saw him get killed. Wardell tells him, "You should have taken a closer look, because the KRA that we were fighting captured me and injected me with the metahuman blood that we were supposed to get back." But after months of their torture, he started to feel something growing inside of him, and after some time he was able to exert that power, make those who captured him do things. And after breaking free, he left a dead girl in Rose's house to lure Slade to Belle Reve, where snakebite can tax his healing factor, and, well, the rest was just there to break him down. Rose adds that her father poisoned his children with his bloodline, but soon Jericho and her will be free of that forever. Slade asks, what was all of this for? Revenge? And Wardell tells him, not entirely. I'm currently working with a group known as the Nova Council, a group that targets metahuman criminals who use their powers for currency, like mercenary work. Wardell then points his gun at Slade. I'll even give you a fighting chance. Here's a knife. Back in the helicopter they arrived on, Red Hood begins to wake up from the blast back in Metropolis, and he sees Slade and Wardell fighting. As the two slash away at each other, Wardell manages to knock Slade down, and he stands over him, finally ready to kill him. But as the knife is raised, a gunshot goes off, shooting the knife out of Wardell's hands. Off in the distance, Red Hood yells, "Yo, Deathstroke, get your ass over here and I'll provide some cover fire." Even though this isn't what Slade expected, he sure as hell plans on taking it. As Slade and Red Hood plan their next move, Wardell calls out to Red Hood, telling him, "I hired you for a job." Red Hood pops over the gravestones and tells him, "Well, the job's finished. This is my free time now." Red Hood fires away at Wardell and Snakebite, and as they dodge the oncoming fire, Snakebite sneaks around. Just before his tendrils can stick into Red Hood, Slade cuts down, cutting off all of the stingers. The two go back behind cover, where Red Hood hears someone call out, "Jason." Red Hood looks up to see Batman, and he tells him, "This isn't your fight. Walk away." So Jason gets up, telling Batman, "Okay," and he walks away. While everyone watches Red Hood leave, Slade takes the chance and charges in, thrusting his sword into Wardell's chest. After pulling the sword back, Wardell says that this is just as he fantasized, facing him. Rose watches, and slowly her eyes begin to change from red back to normal. Wardell forces Slade down, and just before cutting his head off, Rose tells him to get away from her father. Rose charges in at Wardell, shouting everything he said about Rachel betraying her was a lie, and Wardell says the link must be gone. Oh well. She shouts that she's going to kill him, and he tells her, "I don't think so." And he pushes his sword through her stomach. She falls to the ground, calling out for her father, and Slade gets up, breaking Wardell's arm. Rather than falling down, Wardell turns back and stabs Slade, telling him, "The pain only fuels me." So both Slade and Rose lay on the ground, and Wardell raises his sword again, and then suddenly, the bodies disappear. While everyone looks around, Slade begins to ask, "What's happening?" And a voice tells them, "It was me." Slade looks up to see Jericho and Ra's al Ghul telling him that they have much to discuss. 8 weeks pass, and Slade returns to Tibet after killing a few more of Victor Reyes' men. As he returns, Ra's says that things would be so much more efficient if he would just accept his help. The League of Assassins could dispatch their entire organization very quickly. Slade tells him that he's paying him for temporary assistance, but he won't be in his debt. As the two of them walk into the training ground, Ra's mentions that he used to see him as a potential successor, and now he has 2 extraordinary children. Maybe they could. But Slade stops him, telling him, "I appreciate the compensated assistance, but my children are off limits." Elsewhere in the fortress, Jericho and Rose continue their training, but Rose begins to see images of Wardell. He tells her that her father must die, and she can still serve him by killing Slade. Rose shouts for him to get out of her head and swings her sword down. Jericho tells her to stop, and the image of Wardell changes, and Slade catches her arms. Rose stops and says that she saw Wardell. He can still get to her even here. And Jericho mentions that through the link, he looked into Wardell's mind and he knows where he is. And he knows that they are here, and he won't stop until they are both dead. Roz walks in telling them, well then you must strike swiftly, for the sake of your children. Outside an old courthouse, Slade, Rose, and Jericho prepare for their assault, and Jericho mentions that Wardell knows they're coming. Roz says that they should have taken his offer and brought the League. But Slade tells him, we'll handle this within the family. Soon the three break into the compound and guards begin opening fire on them. Slade stands up, firing a rifle into the crowd, killing them. And then the three head inside. Jericho says that they need to be careful. The guards weren't their only defense. They have metahuman agents as well. The three agents jump out, and Rose says that this will be good since she's done hitting all the wooden dummies, and then her and Slade begin ripping through them. The three stand as all of the agents lay dead, and a voice tells them, what a bloody mess you have made. Everyone looks over to see Wardell, Snakebite, and a woman calling herself Mustasa. She tells them that they're trespassing on her place. Slade fires his gun and sees Mustasa change into mist while Wardell and Snakebite take cover, which means they're still solid targets. Wardell calls out that he sees they're all healed up, and then suddenly Rose finishes his sentence stating, I wanted you to die by my hand, but this'll do. Rose's eyes then change and she begins striking down on Slade. Slade tells Jericho to break the link, and Rose says in Wardell's voice that it won't be that easy. You're too close, so in order to break the link, you're going to have to kill her. Slade says to use more force, and Jericho shouts, forgive me, Rose! The mental blast knocks everyone away and starts to bring the courthouse down, and as the smoke clears, Jericho asks if Rose is. Slade runs over to Rose and tells him, she'll be okay, she's still breathing. And then a voice says, yes, but she will die without my help. Roz says that he can save his daughter's life, but Slade will be forever in his debt. Slade asks how, and Roz holds out a small vial. He tells Slade that this elixir will repair her body. However, the effects will only be temporary, and she'll require a daily dose, provided by him. If not, she will revert to her current state. Slade tells him, she'll become an addict then, dependent on you forever. Jericho tells him that he was the one who did this. Do whatever you can to save her. Just then a helicopter arrives with Victor's reinforcements, and Slade says, fine, I swear allegiance to you, Roz, and the League of Assassins. Roz tells him, very well. I will require your son's assistance though. Soldiers begin running in and Slade opens fire as they get close, and as they each go down, Slade moves on to the next group of soldiers, cutting and slicing into them. Back with Jericho, Roz gives Rose the elixir and tells Jericho to do it. Meanwhile, Slade hears a voice telling him that he should have brought more men, and Victor appears while Wardell and Snakebite begin to surround him. Over in Rose's mind, Jericho finds Rose on the beach of her home. She tells him that she's glad that he's here. Isn't it wonderful? It's the last moment of peace that she can remember before Wardell came. Jericho says that she won't have to worry about him again. Ra's al Ghul took care of that. Now let's go back so that she can be alive. Back in the real world, the fight between Slade and the soldiers begins. He manages to push Snakebite away, but him and Wardell begin beating down on each other. The two men punch each other back and forth, always coming back for one last hit. As Victor watches, he tells everyone enough of this. He will kill Deathstroke. While Slade and Wardell struggle over a knife, soldiers run up as Snakebite comes back. Tendrils begin to launch forward, and just as Slade dodges the attack, the stingers land into the oncoming soldiers. Grabbing a hold of one of their rifles, Slade begins to open fire into the crowd until all that stands is Wardell and Snakebite. Before he can fire, Mustasia floats and springs Slade with a mist. He falls to his knees and she tells him not to worry. It's only temporary blindness. She then tells Wardell to hurry up and kill him. Before he can though, Jericho and Rose shout for them to get away or they'll die where they all stand. Wardell tries to make a link between him and Rose, but she tells him that the mind powers won't work anymore thanks to Ra's al Ghul. Victor tells everyone to clear out. They're gonna regroup back on Danger Island, and Slade watches as they all leave. And all he can do is think to himself that this is now an all-out war. So after recovering and returning to Tibet, Ra's announces to the League of Assassins that they have fresh blood joining their ranks. Let them welcome Slade Wilson, Rose Wilson, and Jericho. Slade says, wait. They weren't a part of the deal. As the night begins to set, Slade tells Ra's that he will not allow this. Jericho says that he did it to save Rose's life, and without him, Rose will die. Slade tells him that it wasn't their decision, they were being blackmailed. And Rose says, what difference does it make? They either die as warriors or they die by his enemies. At least this way they have a fighting chance. Slade then tells them that he never wanted any of this for either of them. They deserve better. But Jericho tells him that his blood flows through them. They just have to accept that. He already has. Ra's breaks up the conversation, telling everyone that now they must fight together and they will take Danger Island. A short while later, everyone loads onto planes to set out for Danger Island. As Rose takes her daily dose of the elixir, Jericho leans over to Slade, telling him that that elixir is not what he says it is. But before Jericho can go any further, a missile is fired and it hits the side of the jet. The jet comes crashing down, but through the rubble, Jericho says that he projected an energy field, and he saved who he could. The four continue on their own, making their way to the facility. Jericho stops an escape pilot, but Roz runs in and stabs him. Jericho says that he didn't have to do that, but Roz tells him threats need to be eliminated. Remember that. Outside, the League of Assassins begin their fight with Wardell, Snakebite, and Mustasia. But back inside of the facility, Slade finally manages to corner Victor Reyes. Roz says that they will take him prisoner, but Victor presses a button, opening up a trap door. Everyone runs outside to chase after him, and then they run right into the middle of the League's fight. Slade runs in, stabbing Mustasia, while Roz and Rose cut down the rest of them. Roz and the League begin to surround everyone as Slade finds Victor in the crowd. He opens fire with his gun, but after only a few shots, Slade cuts Victor's hand off. He then holds his sword ready to kill Victor, and Roz shouts, "No more killing!" Everyone stops, and Roz tells everyone that they are defeated. They only have one chance of survival, and that is to swear allegiance to the League of Assassins. Mustasia is the first to swear, followed by Wardell, and then Snakebite. Victor begins to say it, but Slade stops him by stabbing his sword into Victor's chest. Roz shouts, "Slade, you swore to obey Ra's al Ghul!" And Slade tells him, "I also swore to kill Victor." Roz charges in with his sword, stabbing into Slade's arm. So Slade begins to fight him back, and he thinks about how Roz just used them to get his enemies into their ranks. The swords begin to fly back and forth, and after a quick trip, Roz knocks Slade to the ground. Before the fighting can continue, Jericho shouts for everyone to stand down or die. Back on the jet, he looked into Roz's mind and found that the elixir is nothing more than a powerful stimulant. Roz didn't save Rose from Wardell's mental grasp. He did! And now with their oath of allegiance based on a lie, he rescinds it. Rose says that she also rescinds hers. And Roz tells them, "Very well, I will release you." But as he leaves, Roz says, "May our paths never cross again." And Slade tells him, "Next time I see you, one of us will die." Slade watches as the survivors from the Dead Bastards and the Nova Council fly off, and he came to a very hard decision. Rose and Jericho are better off without him. Rose looks at Slade and tells him that it looks like he's getting old, again. And he tells her that with this family, he's not surprised. So after they say their final goodbyes, Rose and Jericho leave the island. Slade decides that he's going to take Victor's escape boat and go wherever he wants. But he will go alone, taking only death with him, because he is Deathstroke, the Terminator. And that concludes the New 52 run for Deathstroke. Now this does go right into Deathstroke Rebirth, which if you give this video enough likes, will continue going on and doing. Deathstroke Rebirth is a bit more confusing and it does a lot more callbacks to way back in its history. So it's gonna be a bit more difficult to do that series, so even if this video gets a lot of likes, we're gonna have to take a few weeks to situate that. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about Deathstroke the Terminator, and I'll see you next time right here at Comicstorian.